Brothers, open your eyes and ears wide. The story they've told us about our home, Earth, is a facade, a narrative carefully constructed to keep us asleep so we don't question the true nature of the blue rock we walk on. They present it to us as a blue oasis, a mystery to be solved, the mysterious home of the only known life forms in the universe. How convenient. They tell us it's a puzzle, but what if they already have all the pieces and just don't want us to assemble them? Think about it. Earth, a planet that at first glance seems so calm, serene, and beautiful, a place with ideal conditions for us. But the scientists themselves, in a rare moment of apparent honesty, tell us that Earth is quite strange. Strange? Or designed, manipulated, built with a purpose they won't let us understand. Space, they tell us, is a very big place, and it's very clear that there are planets everywhere. We have discovered the astonishing number of 5,340 planets, a vast collection of worlds, and yet the same experts admit that none of them seem to be similar to Earth. None? They haven't found atmospheres like ours, nor liquid water on the surface, nor oxygen. The things we believe life needs. They repeat that we've been very lucky to be where we are. Luck? Or is it that our existence here is not a product of chance, but of an intervention, of a cosmic-scale engineering that completely exceeds us? Earth is, in their own words, a puzzle to be solved, but they give us only small clues to try to understand how Earth evolved, especially in its early days. Why small clues? Why not the full truth? Humanity, they acknowledge, has survived and even thrived, but despite all our ingenuity, we know very little about how and why Earth is the way it is. They say it's 4.5 billion years old based on the dating of a meteorite, but this is just a date, a statistic. The real question is, how did all this originate? They confess that how it was created remains a mystery. They say we must be like detectives to follow the clues, to look back in time and understand the initial formation of Earth. But these official detectives seem to be more interested in hiding clues than in revealing them. They acknowledge that there have been different ideas over time, but the truth is that we still don't know for sure where Earth came from. Many mysteries make this planet truly special. Special. And why is it special? Because it is the only planet that can host life. This shows that we have a lot to learn about the fundamental processes that built it. Built? The word itself is revealing, don't you think? Who built this unique world? And how do they hide the truth about its primitive creation from us? They present us with an unexpected clue coming from a simple experiment on the International Space Station in 2003. At 400 kilometers above Earth, astronaut Don Pettit, in a Citizen Science for Kids program, shook some salt grains in zero gravity. And what a fortuitous discovery. The crystals started clumping together and forming bigger clumps. He repeated the experiment with sugar, and the same thing happened. And suddenly this demonstration for children had revealed the process of how the first particles of Earth began to clump together billions of years ago. Such a simple, so convenient explanation. Do you believe that the creation of a planet as extraordinary as ours, with all its complexities, can be reduced to some salt grains being shaken in a bag? For a long time, we were not sure how all the dust and gas around our sun had clumped together and formed Earth. And now, thanks to some microgravity experiments, the particles start to combine and form bigger clumps. They tell us this has helped us solve a very old problem in understanding the early evolution of our planet. Did they solve an old problem? Or did they give us a toy explanation for a secret they don't want us to investigate? Isn't it too simple to be the truth of such a monumental creation? If 4.5 billion years ago, Space dust particles clumped together and started to build the foundations of our planet, as they want us to believe. What came next? How did it become the enormous celestial body it is today? They point us to places like Vredefort, South Africa, a remote rural area that from space reveals an asteroid impact crater caused by an extremely large object, an object between 20 and 25 kilometers in diameter giant. One that, if it had impacted today, could have wiped out all life on Earth. But they assure us that this impact occurred just over 2 billion years ago on a primitive Earth that was a ball of molten rock, hot from space. Scientists tell us that this crater was just one of many asteroid impacts that happened early in Earth's history. That these giant space rocks, which conveniently left no visible trace, contributed to Earth becoming the huge planet it is today. They invite us to look at the craters and remember that we live in the middle of a cosmic shooting gallery. A shooting gallery. With nearly 300,000 kilometers of Earth's diameter, they tell us there must have been hundreds of cataclysmic impacts that eventually gave rise to planet Earth, and that it was created by the slow accumulation of enormous amounts of debris, rocks, and asteroids. Slow accumulation of hundreds of cataclysmic impacts? Doesn't that sound contradictory? Do you really believe in the cosmic luck that these hundreds of massive impacts not only didn't destroy nascent life, but created it and shaped it in the exact way to be a home? All these collisions of increasingly larger materials ended up being really fundamental for Earth to become what we know today. Fundamental or fundamentally directed. They tell us our world was formed by random collisions in the vacuum of space. But what if they weren't random? What if those impacts were part of a master plan, a large-scale engineering to build the only habitable world we know? If it's a cosmic puzzle we're just beginning to solve, why are the pieces they give us so limited and the explanation so convenient? The formation of Earth is not the first chapter of a random story, but the first act of a creation with a purpose. But the rocky origin is only the beginning of the deception. The biggest enigma, they say, lies in how this rocky globe became an ocean world. They show us the iconic Earthrise photograph from Apollo 8 in 1968. An image that moved people, that showed us a giant blue rock floating in space. 70% of Earth's surface is covered by water, which is extraordinary compared to most other planets. The only world we know that has such a deep and voluminous ocean of water. Unique. Once again, the singularity of our planet resonates. We are not brown with clay on the surfaces. We are not gray like the icy worlds. We have a unique color. Water, they tell us, is really important for Earth to be the planet we see today. But the big question remains unanswered despite their attempts to cover it up. There's still a lot of debate on how Earth got so much water. We don't know how we became an ocean world. Where did all of Earth's water come from? And why does our world have so much of it while other planets don't? They give us another clue. The Monahans, Texas meteorite, which fell in 1998. A small rock that crashed just 12 meters from some kids playing basketball. A surprise because it had small amounts of water inside. Water in space was surprising. They say this changes everything. That it's very common for there to be water in some meteorites and in some asteroids. And their latest theory is that it seems that's where the water came from to get to Earth. That's where the water came from? Such a convenient explanation, so perfectly fitting into their narrative. If it's very common for there to be water in meteorites, why aren't we surrounded by ocean worlds? Why is Earth the only giant blue rock? They tell us about the habitable zone, the strip around a star that could contain water. Earth's orbit is ideal, not as hot as Venus and not as cold as more distant planets like Mars. It's that simple, they tell us. A simple distance from the sun. Do you believe that the existence of immense oceans on a single planet is due to a simple matter of distance? Or is it that this habitable zone is not a coincidence, but a strategically chosen location for a planet that was deliberately endowed with life? But even with its ideal location, Earth wasn't always like this. They tell us that 700 million years ago it could have been a giant white sphere, snowball Earth, a period of deep cooling, where the surface oceans might have frozen almost completely. They tell us it was caused by much higher concentrations of greenhouse gases, which cooled the planet and created a feedback loop that leads to total glaciation. A natural cycle, or a large-scale reset? A phase of cosmic terraforming to purge and prepare the planet for a new stage of its existence or for a new type of life. A total glaciation that not only didn't destroy life but shaped it. And now prepare for the most astonishing revelation about water, one that whispers hidden truths about our world. Guiana, Brazil, 2008. Miners discover a small diamond. But not just anyone. It's a super deep diamond, formed at 885 kilometers deep, much further than most gemstones can reach. And inside, geologists like Graham Pearson found large amounts of trapped water. Water at nearly 900 kilometers deep. This discovery, they tell us, indicates that we may have large quantities of water stored in the deep interior of the Earth. And what's more shocking, there have been many reports in the last decade that we have the equivalent of 3 to 5 oceans of water in the interior of the Earth. Yes, brothers, 3 to 5 oceans of water inside the Earth. Much more water in the interior than we have on the surface. Why is so much water hidden in the depths of our world? For what or for whom is this vital resource kept in the deepest part of the rock? They tell us that Earth is really a very wet world and that water has been important for life throughout our planet's history. But the magnitude of this revelation is immense. Hidden oceans, protected, inaccessible to humanity. Is it a reserve, a source of life for an ecosystem we have never seen? Or is it the testimony of a design, of a construction that not only thought of the surface but of the depths of this artifact we call home? This is not a geological mystery. It is a clue to a much deeper truth. But water is not the only thing that hides secrets. Our planet's rocky surface, although it seems solid and immutable to us, is also full of surprises. A recent discovery revealed that Mount Everest is growing. The highest mountain in the world is getting even higher. In 2020, Chinese and Nepalese scientists announced that Everest was 60 centimeters taller than before. This forces us to question the stability they have taught us. The surface of the Earth, they confess, is constantly changing in subtle but measurable ways. What are the invisible forces of nature that raise entire mountains? Scientists call it tectonic movements. The theory of plate tectonics suggests that Earth is divided into distinct plates that move, colliding or separating, creating huge mountains and volcanoes. This also generates earthquakes when two plates move together and one of them is pushed under the other. That is, much of the Earth's surface constantly changes over time. The Himalayas are an example where two tectonic plates are continuously colliding, raising Everest. The truly unsettling thing is what comes next. There is no other planet in the solar system with this vibrant and active world with plate tectonics like we have on Earth. Unique. Once again, Earth stands out from all other known worlds. That is unique, they state, and they add, So it seems that this is necessary, or at least an important condition for life on Earth to prevent the planet from stagnating. Necessary? An important condition for life? This is not a simple geological phenomenon, brothers. This is part of the design, an engineering feature that keeps the planet in a dynamic state, preventing the stagnation that is perhaps observed in other inert worlds. It's as if the planet were alive, breathing, moving with a purpose. Who established this necessary condition for life? Who activated this vibrant and active world? The story of Alfred Wegener and his 1915 book, The Origin of Continents and Oceans, is the account of a visionary who dared to question the official narrative. He claimed that the continents, which seem solid and immutable to us, have actually been moving around our planet for billions of years. Wegener saw that the continents fit together like a puzzle, and that they must have been together at some point. But the British Royal Geographical Society refused to believe him, clinging to the idea that continents only moved vertically. His revolutionary idea was rejected, but as with many hidden truths, it resurfaced years later thanks to a remarkable discovery in the depths of the water. In 1949, scientists from the Lamont Geological Observatory at Columbia University began an ambitious program to map the ocean floor. Marie Tharp, a young geologist, analyzed the sonar data, and she discovered that the ocean floor is not flat, but that there are giant mountain ranges hiding under Earth's oceans, like the mid-Atlantic ridge. But what happened? No one believed her for a considerable amount of time. Her colleague Bruce Heezen dismissed her discovery of the underwater mountains as women's talk. Women's talk. Typical of the scientific elite trying to silence the truth, but eventually both he and the rest of the scientific community had to admit that Marie was right. They had to admit it. They didn't discover it themselves, but were forced to accept a truth that had been suppressed. She published a map in 1957, and her discovery proved that the continents do move over time, just as Alfred Wegener had theorized more than 40 years earlier. Marie Tharp showed that the mid-Atlantic ridge was built from volcanic activity because Earth's plates are separating. This ridge was what actually helped to separate South America and Africa from the original supercontinent. Now they are separated by the Atlantic Ocean. We are still learning a lot about the dynamics of plate tectonics and the evolution of our planet, they tell us. But the undeniable fact is that our Earth is extremely unique in having actively moving tectonic plates around our world. Why did the scientific elite try to suppress this truth for decades? Why this slow revelation? Is it that they didn't want us to know that Earth is a dynamic system, a constantly operating mechanism instead of a static rock? It's a truth that hints at control, purpose, a living machinery under our feet. It is intriguing to think that the ground under our feet is alive and that our planet's continents are always in motion. But the crucial question is, what is hidden beneath this constantly changing surface? What is in the depths that maintains this system? The answer to this could be found in humanity's attempts to journey to the center of the Earth, attempts that were brutally aborted. Murmansk, Russia, near the coast of the Barents Sea, the ruins of a Soviet-era engineering facility. There among crumbling walls is a metal lid that has been sealed with 12 rusty bolts. Beneath it lies the Kola super-deep borehole, the deepest hole made by man on Earth and one of the greatest scientific achievements of the 20th century. In the 70s, the Soviet Union set out to beat the world record for deep drilling, going far beyond the typical 3 to 5 kilometers. Their goal, 15 kilometers. A narrow hole, only 23 centimeters wide, that descends directly into the Earth. But as they went deeper, strange things happened. The temperature increased by 15 degrees Celsius for every kilometer. And here's the key point, brothers. The rock began to behave like plastic, and that the solid rock almost stuck to the teeth of the drills. The rock behaved like plastic. Is that a geological explanation or an excuse for something that stopped them? There is so much pressure there and so much heat that at a certain point they couldn't drill anymore and had to abandon the project. They had to abandon the project. No other project has gone deeper since then. In 1995, they reached 12,000 meters, but what does this mean? That the Kola super-deep borehole penetrated less than 1% of the 6,000 kilometers that separate the planet's surface from its inner core. Less than 1%. They barely scratched the surface. If we have only explored such a tiny fraction of the crust, what do we really know about the inner workings of our planet? They tell us about ancient mythologies and stories about what lies under our feet. And then they mention Edmund Halley, the famous astronomer who thought the Earth might be hollow, with concentric shells that rotated independently. They tell us that the idea of a hollow Earth was a valid scientific thought at the time, not just science fiction, but the best explanation at the time. And although they assure us that today we know our planet is not hollow, they admit that Halley's concept of concentric layers has become an accepted theory. They describe a world of 4 parts: the inner core, the outer core, the mantle, and the crust. But how do they know if we have never been there? They analyze the way seismic waves travel through the Earth, bouncing or deflecting. But, and this is crucial, it's interesting that we've never seen the inside of our world in person. We've never seen it. Everything is inference, calculation, models. And what if those models are incomplete? And what if there's a lot more than they're telling us? Even in the world's deepest mine in South Africa, about 4 kilometers deep, they have made unintentional discoveries. At 2.5 kilometers deep, they found a completely new kind of bacteria, the only living thing down there. Life, brothers, finds a way in the most extreme conditions in the unexplored depths. What else could be living there in the darkness under tons of rock and pressure? What biological or even technological secrets are waiting to be discovered in that underworld? And now the last piece of the puzzle, one that connects everything and makes it even more murky. February 2023. Yes, this very year, geologists from the Australian National University made an amazing announcement by detecting a surprising 5th layer that is in the Earth's core, an even deeper layer within what we already thought was the core. We don't know what we're going to discover, they admit. We are still in the age of discovery, and there is a lot of fundamental information we still have to find out about the interior of the Earth. A lot of fundamental information. What are they hiding from us this time? Why this gradual revelation of layers and secrets? Isn't this a confirmation that Halley's model of concentric layers was not so wrong? And what if those layers are not just rocks, but structures, perhaps even rooms or inhabited worlds? If there are 3 to 5 oceans of water in the interior, who or what uses them? This recent discovery validates the idea that our knowledge is incomplete, or worse, that it is being revealed to us little by little as the elite considers humanity to be ready for a part of the truth. But it's not only what's inside the Earth that is a controlled mystery. Our planet's relationship with the sun is also a source of power and destruction, manipulated by forces we barely understand. They warn us that although the sun is vital for our existence, it also has the power to destroy life as we know it. Nash Springs, New Zealand, 2019. Workers unearth a huge kauri tree with preserved rings that hold clues to a 42,000-year-old mystery. The Adams Event. The Adams event, they explain, was a small magnetic pole reversal. And this is crucial. When a magnetic field reverses on our planet, it will effectively disappear for a while. Disappear. This allows solar radiation to enter and basically wreak havoc all over the world. Earth has a magnetic field with two poles, like a bar magnet, and it is our protective blanket which defends us from dangerous flares coming from the sun. It is generated by a hot, molten core full of electrically charged particles that spin, and they tell us we're doing pretty well. But what happens if this force field is unstable? Geoscientists at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, found exceptionally high levels of radiation coming from the sun in the kauri tree rings. This revealed that the last breakdown of Earth's magnetic field, 42,000 years ago, had drastic and deadly consequences. Without the magnetic field, there is an intense charge in the atmosphere, with auroras, lightning, and clear skies, and increased doses of radiation. They tell us that the Adams event caused widespread ecosystem disruptions and even extinctions because the deflecting shield against all radiation from the rest of the universe suddenly deactivated. The magnetic field was reduced to 5% of its current strength, exposing the planet to powerful solar winds, galactic cosmic rays, and unfiltered radiation that destroyed the ozone layer. Some have hypothesized that the Adams event contributed to the extinction of Neanderthals, perhaps because their pale skin could not withstand the increased levels of ultraviolet radiation, or they could not adapt to the ecosystem changes. One more coincidence? Or was it a purge, a forced reset by higher forces, a trial by fire for life on Earth? They tell us that Earth's magnetic field reversals are random and can occur every 10,000 years or every 50 million years. Random? Or are they part of a controlled cycle, a mechanism of self-defense or perhaps of purification? The sun, our source of light, heat, energy, and ultimately life on Earth, is also a furious monster that emits extremely harmful ultraviolet radiation, capable of destroying DNA. Is the sun a tool, a cosmic deity that not only gives life but also controls and molds it through these solar disasters? The Adams event is one of the many possibilities that could change life as we know it. Who decides when and how life changes? And why this constant cosmic threat? While they bombard us with these stories of threats and singularities, humanity is pushed to look to the stars, to search for another planet like Earth somewhere in the universe. William Shatner, on his Blue Origin trip in 2021, describes the most emotional experience of his life contemplating our planet from space, feeling overwhelmed by a profound sense of awe. Extraordinary, he calls it, and then he wonders, does another Earth really exist? In 2014, they tell us that scientists got a little closer by identifying the first potentially Earth-like planet, Kepler 186f, 582 light-years away. A rocky planet in the outer region around its star with enough light for the surface of this planet to be habitable. In addition to Kepler 186f, they have discovered 54 other Earth-like planets. 54 factorial. But here's the trick, brothers. Although these worlds may have some resemblance to ours, that does not mean we have found another Earth yet. Not yet. Why Earth is so unique remains a mystery. They promise us tools that can help us figure out how many other Earth-like planets there may be. But ultimately we won't know until we go further, sending probes to truly understand what these planets are like. This endless search for another Earth is a distraction, a smokescreen so we don't focus on the true nature of our planet. They tell us that the fundamental components that formed it are scattered throughout the universe. But here comes the key confession. On the other hand, we don't see life elsewhere. The raw material is everywhere, but life as we know it is only here. Isn't this the ultimate proof that Earth is not a cosmic accident, but a deliberate creation, a large-scale experiment, a unique project of its kind? Scientists get excited when Earth does something new because it allows them to add another piece to the puzzle. But what if it's not a puzzle but an instruction manual? A manual that is being revealed to us slowly, piece by piece, through mysteries that hide greater truths. Despite everything we have learned, Earth still holds many mysteries, and its place in the universe will remain inexplicable. But it is not inexplicable, brothers. It is simply explained by those who do not want us to understand it. Earth is more than a rock. It is an artifact. A living, dynamic world with hidden oceans in its depths, with a unique internal machinery, with a shield that can be activated or deactivated. Its origin, its water, its movements, its depths, its defenses, everything points to a design, to an intention. Wake up, question everything. Because our future may depend on it. The veil of mysteries is being drawn back, and the truth about our planet, a truth of engineering and purpose, is waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to see beyond the official narrative. Earth is not an accident. It is a masterpiece, and we are part of its secret.